In a video not too long ago, I talked to you about what the cost of living in Fort Collins, Colorado is, and how it's a little bit more expensive than the national average. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about what the cost of living is for Fort Collins versus Denver, Colorado. It is our neighbor to the south, our major metro, 5 professional sports teams, all of the tech startup scene is more down in Denver. So having a comparative analysis of sorts for you to make a decision what you, at least financially, would want to see if you're considering Denver or Fort Collins. So I appreciate you watching this video. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. This is everything about Fort Collins: living, eating, sleeping, playing, working. So, and if at the end of this video you enjoyed the content, give it a big thumbs up. And I appreciate you watching. And as much as I like making these real estate videos on YouTube, we like more working with buyers and sellers and investors here in Fort Collins for all their real estate needs. We're working with people from all over the country, and it's an amazing time. So please reach out, send a call, text, email, whatever works for you. I've got your back when it comes to moving to Fort Collins, Colorado. Without any further delay, let's jump into the cost of living in Fort Collins versus Denver, Colorado. Enjoy. It's important to talk about the cost of living because it ultimately will dictate what you can do with your life and what type of money you are currently earning and how far that will go. Generally speaking, we're going to look at housing, food, insurance, vehicle, and other costs that make up our annual and monthly budget. These numbers here in Northern Colorado, Fort Collins, and in Denver will help you understand how far your income will take you if you are deciding to move here. So essentially, what we are going to do is break down those high-level costs, which there's always some additional costs associated with living that we don't necessarily take into consideration. Miscellaneous is a good number or category for those, but we're going to jump into the high levels. Cost of living is going to go last. We're going to talk to you about the cost of living, the biggest number on the last portion of this video. So stick around and listen for that. So me and my wife, we are not big spenders. What we enjoy spending our money on is we like to go out to movies when you can and go out to restaurants. We probably eat out way more than we should, but for that, what's important to us is the cost of going out to restaurants. And in Fort Collins, for a table of 2, 3-course meal, mid-range, you're gonna look about $50, where in Denver, same meal, maybe a little bit more expensive, closer to $70. Now, that being said, Fort Collins does have a great array of options for restaurants, but Denver is a much stronger kind of culinary art scene that will give you a wider variety of choices, restaurants to choose from. So even though you might be paying a little bit more to go down to Denver to eat for a dinner or two, it is worth the trip even from here up in Fort Collins, but it will be a little bit less expensive if you decide to stay here in Fort Collins and go to Sunny Lubick Steakhouse. Now granted, that's gonna be a little bit on the higher end, so probably closer to that $100 to $120 for a 5-course meal. So anyways, that is the cost of food. Next, we're gonna jump into what utilities and internet are here in Fort Collins versus Denver. We're gonna start with the boring stuff. The state income tax. Well, we're both in Colorado, so 4.63%. Even score there. Nothing better, worse from Denver to Colorado. Then we do have a sales tax difference. In Denver, it is gonna be a little bit more expensive, 8.81%, comparatively to 7.55% here in Fort Collins. So as far as taxes go, there will be a little bit difference on the sales tax side of things, but as far as state income tax, we're gonna be, obviously equal. And then we're gonna jump into food and grocery. As far as grocery goes, there's an index that listed us both about 101, so a little bit more expensive than the national average, but not bad. 101.6 and 101.1. So generally speaking, our groceries are going to cost about the same from Denver to Fort Collins. You could probably expect to spend anywhere from $250 to $350 for a family of 4 here in Fort Collins. So I'd expect that grocery amount to be about the same in Denver, Colorado. When we look at sales tax, grocery, and food, there's a little bit more expense on the going out to eat side of things in Denver, but otherwise all three, kind of level out. There's not going to be too big of a difference on those. So in Fort Collins right now, we are a community that, is dependent upon driving its car. Now, as I will talk about, we are an extremely bike-friendly community and have tons and tons of trails, over 280 miles worth of trails here in Fort Collins. So you can absolutely cut down the cost on your gas expense if you do hop on your bike. As far as public transportation goes, as discussed, we have not explored a good public transportation. We do have a max transit going north-south along Mason Corridor, which has 7 stops and gets you from the north to the south, but it's a matter of getting to that max transit, which can be a little bit difficult. We do have a public bus system. It is okay, nothing great, but we will rely heavily on commuting with our vehicles, which our gas prices are going to be right around $2.50 per gallon. On the flip side, in Denver, it does have a very good light rail system that will take you, all the way north-south in Denver and get you to places where, Denver Tech Center and other areas, and it does come, with a monthly pass that can cut down on your vehicle expense. The Denver bus system, RTD system, could go between $34 for a youth or all the way up to $200 per month for all bus and light rail system access. So that will give you a little bit less of a necessity to drive your car, less on gas, but that is something that you would have to determine whether, it is actually more of a savings if you need it. Working from home right now is a huge savings for everybody on their gas side of things, but Fort Collins is a community that is reliant upon its bicycles and vehicles to get from home to work, whereas in Denver, it's going to be a more concentrated area. People do live in a more dense population so that they don't have to drive near as much, which parking is a humongous deal. Actually, they sell parking spots down in Denver and they can go for substantial dollars. But in Fort Collins, that's just not an issue. Everybody needs access to parking to their vehicles to get from point A to B. So $2.50 for gas here in Fort Collins, minimal public transit, minimal no light rail. We do have a max bus system north-south. Comparatively to Denver, you have the light rail system, public bus systems, rail systems that are on a different level. It is more of a metro, so you can cut down on your gas, but you would have at that point a little bit higher monthly subscription, so to speak, membership fee for the light rail system. When you buy a house or you're renting a single family house, you're most likely going to have utility expenses. Gas, electric, trash, water, and then of course internet. Internet between Fort Collins and Denver is going to be about similar, $60, $50 to $60 per month. Fort Collins does have a municipal broadband coming down its way. Actually, it is accessible to many homes, many areas in Fort Collins, but it will be built out over the next year and a half. For 1 gig, you can expect $55 to $60 per month. You can get all the way up to 10 gigs for $200 per month. Denver, I don't know all of the different availability for gig access internet. I would have to assume it has to be there just because it is a major metro with tons of internet tech down in that area, and internet would absolutely have to be important. So, but you can get it for as low as $60 per month. Utilities, this is actually going to favor Denver a little bit. We're going to see anywhere between $135 to $155 per month on average for utility expense. Again, gas, water, electric, sewer, trash. Whereas in Fort Collins, you're probably going to see closer to $150 to $175 per month on average for our utilities. Don't necessarily have a good explanation as to why this is, but per averages, you would be spending a little bit more on your utility expense on top of your housing expense here in Fort Collins. Alrighty, my final 2 favorite areas and sections to talk about: the houses, renting and owning. So here are our final 2 areas, cost of living comparison, Fort Collins to Denver. In Fort Collins, expect to spend close to $1,800 to $1,900 for a 3-bedroom single family. Where in Denver, you'd probably be closer to $2,200 to $2,300 for the same 3-bedroom single family house. On the flip side, apartment renting for about 850 to 950 square feet is going to be about $1,600 in Fort Collins and $1,750 in Denver. So you do have a little bit of savings living that apartment lifestyle, but you don't have the backyard that you would with a single family, or privacy, no shared walls, things of that nature. But this is definitely an area where it will be more expensive to live in Denver, but it just depends on, again, what you feel is important. You know, your access to the sports teams, whatever that might be, business, work, working from home. But renting in Denver is definitely going to be a little bit more expensive than renting in Fort Collins. Whereas buying a house, the median sales price for a house in Denver as of 2020, December of 2020, 12-month average, was $495,000. Comparatively, in Fort Collins, it was $455,000. Really only an 8% premium to live in Denver comparatively to Fort Collins. But this was a super interesting stat. The per square foot cost to buy a house in Denver was $250 per square foot. Comparatively in Fort Collins, $180 per square foot. So there's about a 30 to 33% difference to buy in Denver per square foot than Fort Collins. They're going to compact those houses. You're going to have smaller areas, whereas in Fort Collins, that's where you're going to get to spread your wings. Ultimately, that is why people have been moving to Fort Collins from different metros, not necessarily Denver, but different metros, is to get out of the small, compact living and be able to buy more house for the value. So for a 30% premium, sure, live in a little bit smaller house, but not for that much more money, $495,000 comparatively $455,000. So the value that you get buying in Fort Collins comparatively to buying in Denver is relatively significant. So there you guys have it. It's the cost of living for Denver versus Fort Collins and for the 2020 numbers. Now, these will change on an annual basis. You know, cost of inflation, materials, demand, supply. So it's important that we keep on top of these numbers, you know, year in, year out. If you guys have any questions in you know, particular areas that I discussed, feel free to reach out, send me a call, text, or comment below. And otherwise, again, as much as we like making these videos, we like working with these buyers, sellers, investors here in Northern Colorado. So send me a text, give me a call or email. We'll get on a Zoom call. We'll discuss your next moves for here at Fort Collins. All right, guys, till next time, take care.